Welcome to the next episode of the BRIO in the Box podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by BRIO Plus, our own brand of custom formulated, small batch crafted supplements. We're featuring our vitamin K2 plus D3. So vitamin K2 is the master regulator of calcium in the body. So vitamin D3 facilitates the transport of calcium across the gut barrier. Once it's in you, vitamin K2 is what directs it where it needs to go. So when vitamin K2 is missing in the diet, calcium accumulates in the soft tissues. So you get like atherosclerotic plaques, like heart disease, kidney stones, bone spurs, painful crystallized things in your tendons and your joints and stuff. K2 directs it where it should go, which is into your bone matrix, into your teeth, helps you have like healthy calcium balance. Vitamin K2 also plays a really key role in production of your sex hormones. So it helps support testosterone. We're going to talk about muscle quite a bit today. Helps support proper testosterone production in men. Also helps support proper androgen balance in women, especially women that suffer from PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is an imbalance in androgens to estrogens. It supports the process of how your cells make energy. So it supports your athletic performance and cardiovascular output and all that kind of stuff. So vitamin K2 is super important. This is the only vitamin that we chose to develop because it's one that's grossly missing in the modern food supply. It should be in the fat of grass-fed animals. They eat the green grass. Their gut bacteria ferments vitamin K1 into the animal form vitamin K2, and then it's in their butter and their fat. Most animals now are grain-fed. So unless you're really spending the extra bucks to buy grass-fed butter, grass-fed beef, you're probably deficient in vitamin K2. So that's why it's one of the few that we do supplement with. I prefer to get nutrients from food, but just as a function of the way the modern food system exists now, there just are some that are difficult to get from food.
Get it in you.
Mm-hmm. So this is part three of our 3-part series on how to be successful in CrossFit.
Yeah.
We talked about the mindset in part 1 that you need at your various stages. We talked about how to get fitter.
Yeah.
Which was?
Try harder.
Just try harder. We spent 40 minutes talking about how to try harder.
We just said it over and over again. Just try harder.
Just try harder.
Just try harder.
So in part 3, we're going to talk about how to get leaner. So better body composition.
6-pack abs.
Definitely. I want to point out that I specifically said how to get leaner, and I did not call this one how to lose weight.
Mm-hmm. That's a different thing.
That's an important distinction, because what I mean by getting leaner is more lean tissue. So that's your muscle and your bones and your connective tissue and all that stuff, and less unnecessary body fat, achieving a healthy amount of body fat. You need some body fat. You can't have none. So for some people, getting leaner, i.e. more lean body mass, less fat mass, they might already be quite skinny, not a lot of fat. And so for them, getting leaner means more muscle. Maybe we're adding 10 pounds on the scale to increase the proportion of lean body mass to their existing healthy amount of fat mass. So for some people, it might be getting heavier, might not necessarily mean getting lighter.
Right.
So I wanted to be specific about that in the start. For a lot of people, it is going to mean losing excess body fat, but we kind of want this balance of like decreasing unnecessary amount of fat and also increasing muscle.
So this is more of a like average Joe, you're kind of 20 to 30 pounds within your ideal weight. Maybe you got a little bit of a dad bod or something. It's not like a super overweight person. It's not like a CrossFit Games athlete. This is like your average person. What do we need to do to lean out, feel better in your skin?
Yeah. So we're not talking about a 600-pound person experiencing extreme metabolic chaos and needing more, psychological interventions from an addiction perspective. That's a whole separate can of worms. We're not talking about CrossFit Games level, super physiologic levels of human performance and all the things they do to support that.
Yeah.
Talking about normal people, the average person you would see when you walk in any CrossFit gym anywhere, at or close to a healthy body weight within maybe 20 to 30 pounds, like you said.
Yeah. So conventionally, it's always been calories in, calories out. You got to measure and weigh and, track your steps and all that kind of stuff. Like where are we at with that?
I again, yesterday literally saw another person in the nutrition and health space say caloric balance is the foundation of good nutrition. Ugh. Triggered. If you've been to my Nutrition 101 course, you know I spend an entire module breaking down the truth and myth contained within the calories in, calories out hypothesis.
Because in theory, like the science makes sense, right? Like if you simplify the equation down to like basic physics, it makes sense. But there's more to it, right?
Okay, so yeah, there's kind of like two opposing camps. There's the people that are like, it's all about calories in versus calories out. Any diet that works because it gets you, to eat less or whatever. It achieves a certain type of caloric balance. And then there's the other people that are like, often the misunderstanding is people think they're saying that calories don't matter,
right?
Which is not. That's a straw man argument from the calories in, calories out people. CICO, they call it, CICO. No one on earth is saying that calories don't exist,
right,
or that calories aren't a thing or whatever.
They matter.
They exist. Well, okay. What's a calorie? It's a unit of measurement. It's a unit of measurement for energy. You put something in a bomb calorimeter, you combust it, it releases a certain amount of energy as heat. It heats up water in the surrounding area of the little bomb thing. You measure the change in the temperature of water. It's just a unit of measurement.
Right.
It's not a molecule. It's not measurable or observable, or it's not observable under a microscope or anything like that. So
it's like a meter or whatever.
Yeah. It's a human invented unit
gallon
of measurement. So it would make no sense to say it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It exists because we all believe it exists. It's just a unit of measurement.
Yeah.
So sure, if you gain or lose weight, we could measure the amount of energy gained or lost from that system. Sure.
So if somebody loses a pound, they did actually burn 3,500 calories. It's just that there's a whole complicated system that led to that. Yeah. 3,500 calories being burned.
So when someone says, how do I lose weight? And you go, oh, well, you just need to like eat less than you expend. You're like, well, yeah, that's like the definition of the thing.
Yeah.
We just said of like losing weight.
Dumbed down version.
But also, so it's true, but also entirely useless to tell someone that. In the same way that if I came to you and I said, hey, David, I want to run a marathon. How am I going to do it? And if you said,
you're going to run 26.2 miles,
I would be like, yeah, fucker, you just stated the definition of a mile or of a marathon, I'd be like, yes, I know that you have to run 26.2 miles. It's literally just the definition of a marathon. You didn't tell me anything useful. What you told me was true. It's true. Yeah. To run a marathon, you have to run 26.2 miles, but you didn't tell me anything useful about how to go about creating the conditions under which I would be capable of running 26.2 miles.
Right. Because anybody that's never ran before, that just ran, would have a very hard time running 26.2 miles. Yeah,
exactly. So when we say, clearly I'm not in the calories or the be all end all of everything. Have I let my bias show through here? Yes, I think. So the, whatever we want to call this, the complete picture, the hormonal approach, it's not at the exclusion. It's not like a Venn diagram where the calories model is over here and the camp I'm in is over here. It's that the camp I'm in encompasses the calories and the caloric balance. Of course, it has to. It's just a unit of measurement. So we're going to free ourselves from the calorie as a variable of concern. It's going to be a measurement on the outcome. Right. That's all that matters. It's not going to be a variable of concern on the input. So we're going to talk about how we would like to move more, burn more, use more energy, and take in less energy. Yeah. We're going to talk about how. How are we going to do that?
Without wanting to hang ourselves or pull our hair out. Or
for the long term in a sustainable way. There are a ton of things that can get you to lose weight in the short term. Yeah. Chemotherapy will get you to lose weight.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. Yeah. Right. Not a way that we would recommend. It will get you to weigh less on the scale.
Methamphetamine. They tend to be pretty lean.
Yeah. So yeah, if our only measurement of success is a number on the scale, it's going to send us off on a wild ride of doing some things that are not supportive or of our long-term health. So we're looking for things that work to expend more and take in less, shift that balance. We're looking for things that do that in the long term.
Right. Not a crash diet.
Not a crash diet. And we're looking for things that do that the easiest, lowest effort way. Yeah. Is that fair to say?
Because really when it comes down to it, the hardest part of a diet is sticking to it, right? When it's 100% on your ability to, you know, do it every day, like that's the hardest part.
Yeah. So we want it to happen as easily as possible, like autopilot mode with as little willpower and force as possible. So of those variables we were just talking about, we would like to increase energy expenditure.
Okay.
We'd like to burn more. How are we going to burn more? Well, we can do it by force, which is hours and hours and hours of cardio.
Yeah. And that's the traditional like bodybuilder approach.
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah.
Back in the day before CrossFit, 2 hours on the stupid elliptical machine and whatever, just trying to burn those calories.
Yep.
But instead of thinking about how many calories does this activity burn, we should think about what adaptation does this activity cause.
Okay.
So we can burn calories by force, like long, slow cardio, or we could burn calories all the time, sitting here every minute of the day. Which one sounds easier? I'm burning calories right now. So what burns calories at rest is muscle.
Okay.
Muscle does the heavy lifting of your metabolism. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It supports what you want on the expenditure side of that calories in, calories out model. So we want to do training. The training adaptation we want are things that increase our muscle mass, increase lean body mass. So from a training perspective, we have to lift heavy things.
Yeah.
So you do all the programming at BRIO. What are the principles of good athletic programming that support muscle growth?
You need to lift heavy. You need to take rest in between in order to lift heavy. You can't do too much volume or it just turns into more stamina than strength. And you can't do it all the time. If you lift heavy every single day, it's just overdoing it. And then you need to prioritize movements that allow you to move long or large loads a long distance quickly, right? So we're going to prioritize a back squat or a deadlift over a shoulder fly or a, you know, bicep curl or something like that. No one has ever like done a 1 rep max bicep curl that was like all their body could manage and, you know, they fell on the floor just completely exhausted. Whereas you have those like 1 rep max deadlifts where your body just wants to shut down afterwards because it's just so, you know, hard on your CNS system.
So compound movements, large loads, full body, multi-joint. Those are like the definitions of functional movements.
Yeah.
Do you get stronger by maxing out every day?
No, unfortunately, no. That is the fun part, right? Testing. Yeah. We always talk about like training versus testing, right? So use the deadlift, for example. People love dropping deadlifts, right? I lifted it up, I'm going to drop it back down. When you back squat, you have to do the negative before you get to like contract and stand up. So you're getting a lot of the benefit from that lift by lowering down and then standing up. So if you're deadlifting and all you do is pick it up and drop it down, you're missing out on half the benefit of that lift. So when you're training, you're generally doing multiple reps at certain percentages and you're like incrementally adding as you go in more volume or more weight or whatever. But you need to do some numbers. You need to do some 3s and some 5s and, you know, whatever. Make for those uncomfortable sets instead of that nice, challenging one that's super exciting.
And that's kind of the hallmark of strength programming. Yeah. In that kind of 3 to 5 rep range. Yeah. For maximum like strength and muscle growth. Yeah. But like you said, can't train that heavy that hard every single day. No. We sprinkle in the strength training, you know, a few days a week, but not every single day
Depending on the time of year, it's like 2 to 4 days a week. We'll throw a heavy barbell around and then we'll also incorporate some heavy stuff into the WODs as well, but just moving heavy objects around.
Yeah. So full body, multi-joint,
compound exercise.
Compound from your big muscles, your big movers, your butt, your back, shoulders, the big ones. And then all the things in your recovery, we kind of talked quite a bit about that in the part 2 of this series of things that support muscle growth. So your nutrition, prioritizing, especially the like highly nutritious red meat, because it comes with not only the protein, but like heme iron and creatine and carnitine and choline and B vitamins and zinc and like all the good things that help you support your muscle growth.
All the things they sell in supplements are found in red meat.
Just eat a steak.
Just eat more steak.
Yeah. You don't have to take carnitine. You don't have to take branched chain amino acids. You just eat meat, egg yolks. And then, you know, we were talking about the like building blocks of your sex hormones, testosterone being the big one there.
Yeah.
Other hormones that support good muscle growth and repair, growth hormone. You get that from keeping your insulin levels nice and low and balanced. You get that from a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
You get that from a diet free of lots of processed foods. Soy is particularly suppressive to testosterone and growth hormone.
Doesn't it increase your estrogen levels?
Yeah. So it's like a estrogen mimicker, phytoestrogens in soy. So yeah, we're supporting muscle to burn more calories all the time, to do it on autopilot,
yeah,
that's what we want, right? We said we're going to try to do these things the easier way.
So is your body temperature a good indicator of that process?
Ooh, good question. Yes. Good question, David Riley.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a simple thing with like a little thermometer you can buy from Shoppers Drug Mart for like 10 or 20 bucks. You can take your body temperature, same time of day. You got to do it consistently because your body temperature fluctuates throughout the day. If you have a consistently low body temperature, normal should be 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but it varies. That's like...
Do you know how I remember that?
How do you remember that?
The band, 98 degrees.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. There used to be a commercial for gum they had. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, never mind.
I just remember it from boy bands, like a normal human.
So, like the band, your body temperature should be 98 degrees. But some people, when they take their body temperature, will be like low 90s, like maybe even 88, 89. Wow. That's a sign of like a severely depressed metabolism where it's almost like a form of hibernation called torpor, where your body has gone into like a metabolic down regulation. So really not burning a lot of energy at rest. So taking your body temperature every day can be just like a really straightforward way to monitor that. That's a good one.
Okay.
So what allows us to burn more calories all the time is strength training, prioritizing. The cool thing about strength training is you don't have to do it that much.
Yeah.
Whereas like the chronic cardio option is so time consuming and so taxing and stressful on the body and down regulates your immune system and down regulates your muscle mass and like you get all these like negative things. So you're trying to burn calories by force. Yeah. But then the adaptation that causes is your body wants to get more efficient at that activity that you're spending a lot of time at. So say you're like running, you like go run and run and run for hours a day. Well, what's your body going to do? We're going to decrease insulin sensitivity. We're going to try to do that work with the least amount of calories possible. We're going to get rid of muscle mass because just extra bulk to carry around. So you end the adaptation that it causes is you actually burn less calories the rest of the time. So even if you manage to carve out the time to 2 or 3 hours of cardio a day, you're burning less calories the other 21 or 22 hours of the day. So.
And if you see some of the ultra marathon runners who are running like 40 hours a week, like they're not large people. They're like skeletons running around, you know, like they look sick.
Why would you want to have any more muscle on you? It's just more bulk to carry.
All the like Kenyan runners, they're like incredible. They're small, tall, thin, you know, like they're built for that sport.
Specialists. Okay. So then we're maximizing we're stoking the furnace. Muscle is the furnace, basically.
Muscle's the furnace.
It allows you to do work so that you want to go around in your life and be more energetic and do lots of things. So we're prioritizing strength training and therefore muscle mass. Okay. We're deprioritizing chronic cardio to prevent energy storage. So when energy comes in,
watch out for that.
Energy comes into the body, food, calories, whatever. It can go one of two directions. It can go into storage for use at a later time. So that's your fat tissue, or it can get directed to be used for energy to support all of the functions of life. So like your basic organs and your brain and your muscles doing exercise and all that kind of stuff. So we've got expenditure and we've got storage. We obviously want that switch, that pathway to go towards expenditure. We're trying not to have more energy being put into storage into our fat tissue. The major hormone that controls energy storage is insulin. Yeah. There's like 8 different hormones that stimulate releasing energy out of your fat tissue and stuff. There's only one that stimulates storage, and that one trumps all the others. Yeah. Insulin's like the king, the big dog that suppresses the other, blocks the function of the other 8. Right. Insulin is secreted uniquely in uniquely high amounts in response to dietary carbohydrates, in response to high blood sugar.
Yeah.
Blood sugar, it's a very tightly regulated process in the body. You have a very tiny amount of sugar in circulation all the time. You need some. It's about 4 grams, about the equivalent of 1 sugar cube in a healthy size, average size adult.
Yeah.
If that blood sugar doubles to 8 grams, that's a problem. If it like triples to like 12 grams in circulation, it's like a 5-alarm fire. Like it can't get that high. Blood glucose that high, it's, you know, like think of sugar. It's like a crystal little substance. It's very damaging to the microvasculature, the small little blood vessels and capillaries. So particularly in your fingers and toes, your eyes, and like the microvasculature of your brain. So high blood sugar, bad thing.
So when you eat carbohydrate high foods, your blood sugar goes up, and so your body releases insulin to deal with that blood sugar.
So insulin's like the delivery driver, picks up the sugar. Insulin activates cell surface insulin receptors, which I don't need to geek out on the biochem here, but it brings something called a GLUT4 transporter to the cell surface. And GLUT4 is like this little channel. It opens up and allows the sugar to go into the cells. So we're talking like muscle cells, organ cells, brain cells, where we want to use sugar for energy. So it gets packed away. If your brain is good, doesn't need any, if your organs are fine, they're topped up, if your muscles aren't doing any exercise, then the sugar always goes to the fat cells. Right. It gets converted into fatty acids, triglycerides, and stored for later.
Right. So there is some benefit to insulin because it does help refuel muscles or brain or whatever might be needed.
Yeah. So
but any leftover residual is always put into fat storage.
Yeah. So insulin, super high insulin causes you to gain body fat and stops you from being able to release any fat out of your fat tissue. Right. But it's a growth factor all around. So it also can help your muscles grow. It can deliver amino acids to the muscles. Mm-hmm. We can also do that via another pathway that doesn't involve insulin though. So not everything is 100% bad. Yeah. There's always like some purpose or some benefit to certain things. So insulin in certain situations can be valuable, intermittent in low doses. Yeah. What is very damaging is chronic high hyperinsulinemia, means too much insulin in the blood. Right. So how do we keep insulin levels low? Notice I'm not saying 0. Yeah. Low and healthy. Well, the number one most important thing is we reduce blood glucose excursions. We try to avoid eating things that spike your blood sugar a ton and force you to secrete a whole bunch of insulin. Right. So you keep carb intake low and infrequent or intermittent. Right. Once in a while. Whole unprocessed foods have their carbohydrates all kind of bound up in a matrix. So it just takes your digestive system longer to break off the glucose and get it into your bloodstream. So the rate at which they hit your blood is much slower. The slope is much lower versus a refined or processed like flour, refined carbohydrates just go, because they're in your bloodstream before you even swallow. Like your salivary amylase is breaking them down before it's pure sugar before it even hits your guts.
And there's I think a lot of people have heard that post-workout, you need to cram yourself full of a bunch of carbs to refuel your muscles, right? And for like a CrossFit Games athlete who has another event, in an hour or whatever, like you need to expedite that process as much as possible. But for a random guy, like there's no rush on that process, right? Like it can take until the next workout, which could be a day or so. Yeah.
So glycogen is how your body stores carbohydrate. You have a very teeny tiny fuel tank to store carbohydrate, glycogen. It's about 100 grams in the liver and maybe 400 to 500 grams in the muscle tissue. Glycogen is just a storage form of glucose. The little bit that's in your liver, your body can spit out in between meals to keep blood sugar stable. The amount that's in your muscles is not available to be used. Like it doesn't make its way into your bloodstream. It's not available for the brain. It's only in your muscles it's like rocket fuel. Right. For super high intensity sprint, max power output type, like fight or flight type thing. So it's like a backup reserve fuel for the most high intensity things. When you do high intensity training, you're going to tap into some of that glycogen. You're going to deplete that fuel tank in your muscles a little bit. So there's a few things that need to happen there. You need to sprint in the first place. Right. We spent a whole episode last time talking about trying harder. Right. You have to try hard. Yeah. You have to be working at high intensity. It's called anaerobic, where you're working without oxygen, and it's in a time frame that can only last from like 10 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. And it's the one that leaves you like in the fetal position on the floor.
Yeah.
So you have to do that in the first place. Sprinting is awesome.
Yeah.
Sprinting primes your cells, your muscle cells, to take up glucose. And actually, if you sprint hard, it primes your cells to do it via a different glucose transporter called GLUT1 that does not need insulin. So you can tolerate more carbohydrate, more starch or glucose if you sprint hard.
Right.
So when you try harder, you can tolerate a bit more glucose, and you can tolerate it without causing a big insulin bolus.
If you do, let's say, an hour-long CrossFit class, what percentage of if you're sprinting, like you're going hard, you're hitting it hard, what percentage do you think you would drain out of your glycogen stores? Like maybe 50% or less?
Yeah. And I think probably that's going to be bad news. It's like for most people, and at the intensity that most people work, not much, honestly. Yeah. But if you learn to try harder and you learn to really give her shit, you can increase that. As you started to talk about, your body will replenish muscle glycogen without dietary carbohydrate within 24 hours.
Right.
So if you work out once a day or less, you do not need to worry about replenishing muscle glycogen.
Right. It will happen on its own.
It happens on its own. Your body takes care of that for you. We can talk about the pathways. It doesn't really matter. You just need to know it happens. Yeah. A day later, you would not be glycogen depleted anymore.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody is looking more to lean out or lose weight, those carbs, especially if they're not put into glycogen stores, are just going to end up going back into body fat. Those extra carbs you're eating post-workout.
Yeah. So you've just increased your insulin, blocked your lipolysis. It's called when you break down your body fat for energy. You've blocked your ability to use your body fat. So you just got yourself sort of stuck in this circle thing.
Right.
So we're going to keep carbohydrate intake low and infrequent. And especially if you have more body fat to use up, you really do not need to make that carbohydrate intake very frequent at all.
Right.
If you're already at a pretty low or stable amount of body fat, healthy amount of body fat, you can increase that carbohydrate frequency to maybe once a day.
Right.
Where other people might need to go once every 3 days, once every week, maybe a few days out of every month, or just seasonally. Or, I mean, if we get all the way out to the far end of the bell curve, like we were talking about, it's like never.
Yeah.
If you
used up all your carbs.
If you used up your lifetime amount of carbs.
Yeah.
So you can use them strategically depending on how close you are to your ideal amount of body fat.
For me,
and how often you're training.
Yeah.
A competitive athlete training twice a day, definitely going to need to replenish muscle glycogen exogenously. They're going to need to eat that carbohydrate to do it. If you're training once a day or less, like 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, you don't need to.
Yeah. Like for me, I've always found that if I've fallen off the wagon and I haven't been training and I want to get back onto the wagon, if I like fairly low carb, no carb almost for the whole week, and then on Saturdays I carb up, I will still start leaning out quickly. It works really well for me. So it's not like I'm never eating carbs. I just only eat it once, maybe twice a week. And then the closer I get to, my ideal body weight, which I don't want to be too low, I tend to lose weight too quickly if I don't have carbs enough. I'll start to in the evening I'll have some carbs, or at least every other day or something, just so it's like a more frequent fuel or carb up, just to stop the process of like getting smaller and leaning out. So I just like, for me, it's like I have a hard time eating enough of the fat and protein, right? Like I can only eat so much steak in a sitting, as much as I love it and it's delicious. It's like I can't eat 20 ounces of steak. So
you and I are kind of the opposite. You're like the lean hard gainer. You're like naturally lower body weight, skinny guy.
Trim
David. I am the opposite.
Dummy thick.
Basically. I gain all kinds of weight super easy. So I can gain muscle really easily, which is great, but I can also gain fat super easily, which is not ideal. So I have to play to my strengths there and play to building more muscle and be careful with my affinity for building body fat.
You've done longer duration, like carnivore or keto, whereas I usually don't do more than a week or two without carbs.
And then when we replenish with carbs, the specific type, so we're favoring starch, which is just chains of glucose, as opposed to sugar. Sugar is 50%, like sucrose, table sugar, is a 50-50 molecule of a glucose and a fructose.
Yeah.
So it's half and half. So it's only half glucose. What replenishes your muscle glycogen is only the glucose part. The part, blood glucose is what you can use for energy. Fructose, you cannot directly metabolize for energy. It has to go through the liver. It goes from your digestive system through the portal vein directly to the liver. It doesn't go into circulation. So actually, if you pricked your finger and measured your blood glucose after eating white bread, the blood glucose response would be higher than if you ate pure sugar, which a lot of people are like, what? I thought you're talking about blood sugar. I just ate pure sugar.
Right.
How can it be that it doesn't raise my blood sugar as much as like a piece of bread or white rice or something? But it's because the bread is 100% glucose and the sugar is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. Fructose in small amounts seasonally is fine. Mm-hmm. There's like a small capacity in your digestive system to like metabolize it and whatever. In high amounts, in refined high amounts, concentrations, particularly liquid form, juice or soda, same thing. One has bubbles, but they're interchangeable, identical sugar content. Fructose has a bunch of particular metabolic signaling properties. So if we think of when fructose is available in the environment, it's the fall, late summer, fall. What is that a signal that's coming?
It's time to bulk up.
Winter's coming, right? The line, winter is coming. So your genes take this information from the environment and go, oh, a lot of fructose. Winter's coming. Time to bulk up. Time to gain some fat because we're going to need it for the winter.
Right.
So fructose is a genetic signal that switches on a bunch of programs. It increases the size of your gut on contact. It literally causes your gut to expand on contact so that you can pack more food in you.
Right.
So it makes more space. Literally makes your guts bigger. It acts on the hypothalamus to increase your appetite. Increases ghrelin, the hormone that makes you feel hungry. So it literally allows you to eat more, signals you to want to eat more. It decreases the amount of available energy. So the energy currency of the human body is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP breaks off one of the phosphates, high energy bond, makes energy. Now you have energy, ATP, adenosine diphosphate. Now you have two, break off the second one. Now you have AMP, adenosine monophosphate. What you do with that AMP, it can go one of two pathways. It can get recycled and have the phosphates put back on, and then now you have a new molecule of ATP to use for energy again. So the thing that does that is called AMPK, AMP kinase, which kinase means like kinases are builders. They put the phosphates back on. Or it can go AMPD, AMP deaminase, where that whole molecule gets broken down and recycled and taken out. So the adenosine backbone, it's like a purine. It just gets excreted through the kidney. So you have these two pathways, AMPK, and you might notice in like some supplements now, if you're really deep into that world, AMPK activators are a big thing right now. Mm-hmm. Things that help you recycle your energy into new energy. Sounds like a good thing, right? Versus AMPD leaves less energy available, which if it's fall and you're trying to bulk up for winter makes sense, right? You wouldn't want to be very energetic. You wouldn't want to move around too much. So fructose upregulates AMPD, leaves you less cellular energy available.
Okay.
So in a bunch of ways that it makes your guts bigger, increases your appetite, gives you less energy available. Even like we were talking about body temperature, lowers body temperature.
Makes you hungry and lethargic.
Yeah, it makes you hungry and lethargic, makes you like put you in energy storage mode, like sort of a pre-hibernation type thing, which isn't a bad thing if we think of the evolutionary context that came from. Yeah. So the better we are at responding to the environmental signal of fructose, the more likely we were to survive the winter.
Right.
So if you're like, oh man, I eat sugar and I just get so fat so fast, you're like, well, yeah, those were good genes. Yeah. A few hundred years ago, those were survival genes. Those helped you a lot. What we have now, winter, we are constantly preparing for a winter that never comes. Mm-hmm. We're constantly in like hibernation, pre-hibernation mode. Yeah. We need to balance that out. We need to not eat pure refined fructose. Yeah. We need to make it seasonal, make it intermittent. We need to experience periods of metabolic or nutritional winter to keep the balance.
And for me, like I can eat some potatoes or rice or something starchy in the evening and I'm fine. Like I'm good to go. But if I have like sugar, cookies, whatever, like, I just want to keep eating them.
Yeah.
I'm more of an abstainer. So when I do dabble in those types of things, it's very hard for me to not eat all of them.
Yeah. You're not eating 2 cookies, you're eating 12.
Yeah.
They're all going. So yeah, eating the right things strategically, right? Strategically using some starches to support our muscle and performance, but not in a way that it triggers like low energy fat storage. Fructose in the liver is the most lipogenic, the creation of new fat, lipogenesis. So fructose of all the carbohydrates gets converted to fat the fastest or the most efficiently. So excess fructose, like sugar, juice, and soda, gives you fatty liver disease, excess accumulation of fat in the liver, which used to be exclusively a disease associated with alcoholism. And so now we have to call it something else. It's NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But actually the pathway that you metabolize ethanol, alcohol, is pretty similar in the liver to how you metabolize fructose. They're both equally toxic in more than small amounts and lead to the same disease, which is fatty liver disease. So fructose is essentially alcohol, basically. So off on another tangent, it's wild that we feed kids as much sugar as we do, and sugar is like the alcohol of the child, but that's a rant for another day.
I'll save that for another podcast.
So if we've accumulated excess body fat, we've prepared for winter.
Yeah.
We need to let winter come a little bit. So what's winter? Periods of fasting.
Right.
A little bit of intermittent fasting helps. Low insulin allows you to liberate some fat out of your fat tissue, use it for energy, use it up. An underappreciated fact is that what's in your fat tissue is a triglyceride, 3 fatty acids on a glycerol backbone. So when you liberate 3 fatty acids through lipolysis, you also liberate a glycerol backbone, which glycerol, glucose, similar, goes to the liver and gets converted to glucose. So for every 3 fatty acids you release, you also gain a glucose molecule. So even if you're not eating anything, or even if you're eating a low carbohydrate diet, you are still supplying your cells with the glucose that's needed. There's multiple pathways that your body makes as much glucose as needed.
Yeah.
And from your own fat is one of them.
And that's why like an Inuit population that would eat entirely fat and meat can still survive.
Yeah.
Even though there's like technically parts of your body that need carbs, right?
Yeah, for sure. Your red blood cells, the astrocytes of your brain, they don't have mitochondria. They can only run on glucose. So glucose is totally not essential from the diet, or we could think of it as so essential. Like you can't have 0 blood glucose for even a few minutes. It's so essential that we have an endogenous process to make sure that we always have as much sugar as needed. So it's called gluconeogenesis, creation of new sugar. You do that from the glycerol backbone of your fat. You can do that from lactate, which is a byproduct of energy metabolism. When you sprint hard and you're like, my legs are burning, it's the lactic acid buildup.
Right.
As you teach your body to get better at processing that metabolic waste product into a usable fuel source, it gets turned back into usable fuel, which is partially what we do in CrossFit is we're training our lactate threshold or lactate system, and certain amino acids. So there are some, not all amino acids that can also get turned into sugar.
Right.
So you're good. Basically, like if you're like, oh, I heard you need like X amount of carbs, your brain needs carbs. Like, yeah, true. Not as much as people would have you believe.
Yeah.
And even if you don't get it from the diet, your body's got your back.
Right.
You're good. Other things that prevent energy storage: sleep, good quality sleep, not enough sleep, inadequate sleep, decreases insulin sensitivity, which means it takes more insulin to get the job done, increases your craving for easy energy. So that's like processed food, carbs and sugar.
And for me, it's like if I eat processed food at night, like if we have pizza or something bad, I'll sleep worse that night. And then the next day I'll be groggy and lethargic and feel gross. So I'll just like want to eat more of the junky stuff. But then that's the vicious cycle that people get into. Yeah,
for sure. So these things don't exist independent of each other. They're all very much related. So preventing energy storage, keeping insulin low. We do that by strategically keeping your carbohydrate intake as low as possible to support lean body mass and performance, which can be anywhere from 0 to more. Infrequent, so letting there be periods of low insulin.
Yeah, and periods of like no food. We touched a little bit on fasting.
Yeah,
like
fasting.
Like what's a reasonable amount of fasting time?
At a minimum, you need 12 hours from
Each day.
your last meal at night, from dinner to breakfast the next morning.
Yeah.
Minimum 12 hours.
And I think that throws people off. They think, oh, that's like so long. But like if you have breakfast at 8 in the morning and you are still eating after 8 p.m., like that's a lot of eating time, you know, like that's a big window of eating.
Yeah. So it should be reasonable. You have dinner at maybe 7.
Yeah.
You have breakfast at 7 a.m. the next day. That should be reasonable.
And that's a minimum.
Minimum 12 hours. If you can make that more like 14 or 16, that's ideal.
Yeah.
So then the sort of 16 and 8 is a pretty common intermittent fasting. Fast for 16 hours, eat for 8 hours. Most people that I'm familiar with that eat like good quality animal-based whole unprocessed food diet, they tend to drift towards 2 big meals a day. I don't know of very many people that eat real food that feel like they need to eat more than twice a day. So it becomes more natural to just kind of like lunch and dinner, coffee, water in the morning kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that tends to be when you eat real food. It seems to be more of a natural rhythm.
Yeah.
We touched on this a little bit, preventing energy storage, avoiding chronic cardio, which is basically, if we talk about like evolutionary signals, especially if you're pairing chronic cardio with not enough food, like a calorically restricted diet or especially a low fat diet, what kind of signal is that, right? We said we're going to ask ourselves the question of not how many calories does this burn, but what is the adaptation being caused by this behavior? While your genes read that as clearly you're just wandering the plains looking for food. You're not finding enough food.
Yeah.
So this is clearly a time of food scarcity. And so the adaptation to tons of like moderate intensity exercise and not enough food is to downregulate your metabolism. Again, with like your body is smart, your genes are smart, they're highly adapted. So when people are like, I've damaged my metabolism from dieting. No, you didn't. You adapted your metabolism.
Right.
Your metabolism did exactly what you told it to do,
Right.
which was survive a period of food scarcity, right? So
Right.
Calorically, metabolically expensive processes start to go. You catabolize muscle mass. Don't need that. Burns too much energy. Immune function. Your immune system's tremendously energy intensive. Immune function goes down. Non-essential processes like in females, like fertility, menstruation goes away. Don't need to do that right now. Don't need to, put any energy into like trying to make a person. So all of these like things start to go out the window. Body temperature goes down. We're just burning less energy. We're making less heat, right? We're sort of like getting into conservation mode from all different methods. And so your body will bring energy expenditure down to match energy intake. And if you force energy expenditure through a lot of chronic cardio, your body forces energy conservation through multiple other mechanisms.
Interesting.
And so then someday when you do start to eat your normal amount again, you've adapted your metabolism to a lower amount. So now you don't have as much metabolically active tissue. You lost your muscle and, all the good things that we wanted. So the adaptation caused by chronic cardio and caloric restriction is less calories being burned. Well, that's not what we wanted.
And I think a lot of people will refer back to like traditional bodybuilder style approaches, right? Where they like do their morning cardio and they eat their like low fat, whatever, sometimes even low carb, like just high protein diets. And the thing people often ignore is that, I'm going to say most, but some bodybuilders are already manipulating their hormones with exogenous, methods. And that can lead to so much damage down the road. There are so many previous bodybuilders that like now their metabolism is fucked, like from doing just that.
I spent 2 years doing bodybuilding before CrossFit, like figure competitions, doing all that wacky dieting and low fat, high protein, and then ultimately just low food, right? Low fat and low carb, just protein. The rebound is real when you start to eat real food. I think after one competition, because you're dehydrated as well, within the first 48 hours after, I'm pretty sure I put on more than 30 pounds. Like the rebound was wild. And then as much as there are coaches dedicated to like getting you into competition shape, there is an entire industry built around managing the bounce after.
Right.
That's a whole thing in itself now of healing people from the fucked up
Yeah.
metabolic adaptations they initiated by trying to get super lean on stage for one day, which is why we're not talking about that. We're not talking about
those people are not, they're looking for aesthetics. They're not looking for health or performance or any of those types of things.
Absolutely not.
They're lean to a fault.
Yeah. So we've got how to burn more calories at rest, which is have more muscle. We've got how to prevent the calories that you do take in from being directed to storage, which is keeping insulin low and stable. And you increase your ability to use insulin by fasting, sprinting, sleeping, and just keeping carbohydrate intake periodic and strategic.
Right.
Limiting, avoiding refined fructose for sure. Keeping fruit intake to like seasonal, local, nearby. Honestly, the fruit that you find in the grocery store, there's nothing natural about that. If you look at like a wild banana, like go look up the pictures of like a wild watermelon. It's like those things look nothing, like unrecognizable. They look nothing like what you find in the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's in the grocery store has been selectively bred for maximum sweetness, maximum sugar, minimum rind, minimum fiber.
Right.
It's like basically just candy.
Dessert.
Just basically just candy, which, enjoy it periodically.
Yeah.
Once in a while. It's just don't make that the bulk of your diet.
Right.
So then intake. So we've basically talked about like expenditure or avoiding storage. Now we need to talk about how to make our energy intake, which is our appetite, match our energy expenditure, or maybe even make it slightly below.
Right.
But not in the way where we cause an adaptation that downregulates our metabolism. So we've got to be tricky. We've got to be sneaky. We got to make sure our cells have all the fuel they need and that they don't know whether it came from the diet or whether it came out of our stored energy or fat tissue. It came out of your own butter on your butt, basically. So there is a bit of a myth out there that our natural state, or what the conditions we evolved under was chronic food scarcity. And so it's called the thrifty gene hypothesis, that the natural state of the human being is constantly as hungry as possible. When we're in contact with food, we're just supposed to eat as much as possible because it would help us survive. Hypothesis, thrifty gene hypothesis. Totally not true at all. There's never actually been any evidence to support an actual thrifty gene. Like literally in the human genome, there's no thrifty gene. It's not a thing. Natural living hunter-gatherer tribes, even experiencing the most food abundance, they don't eat past a natural, like they don't exceed a natural healthy body weight. They don't get to be 600 pounds, even if they live in the most abundant, animals for hunting and fish and coconuts and like, nuts and seed, like calorically dense food, they don't do it. So this whole idea that our appetite is just constantly on overdrive is not natural. The way we eat now is such a perversion of like processed food that we all just take it for granted. Like you're just hungry all the time.
Right.
You're not supposed to be hungry all the time. That's not normal.
Yeah.
Your appetite is supposed to match, your need is supposed to match your intake, your want. Your want is supposed to match your need.
Right.
So how do we regulate our appetite? You got to eat real food. What's the common characteristic to our natural living hunter-gatherer people? They're only eating real, seasonal, local, unprocessed foods. Right. So that's step one. Eat real food. Pretty simple. You got to prioritize protein. All mammals eat to a protein target, and then they stop eating. In humans, dropping the protein content of your diet from just 15% to 13% will cause you to eat 300 to 500 calories more per day. Your appetite is looking for protein. Right. So you got to prioritize protein, which is like why my top athlete foods are red meat, organs, eggs, like, high, good quality protein foods. Nutrients tend to follow protein. So if you're prioritizing whole food protein sources, you're generally more nutrients are going to follow those things. Right. So that's why I would rather you eat steak and eggs than rely on protein bars and shakes and things where we've sort of taken the nutrients out.
Because you're taking a protein in combination with some sort of carb or sugar alcohol or some kind of weird thing with those refined. Yeah,
the protein bars, then you're getting some protein, but you're not getting like the heme iron and the B vitamins and all the things that were supposed to be packaged in there with that steak.
So can you eat too much protein, or is it basically like self-satisfying?
It's pretty self-regulating because you just don't want to.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to overeat protein. There is a disease called rabbit starvation. So when they had explorers heading west during the gold rush, and the only food they could find was like they would hunt rabbits. Rabbits are super lean. So they were getting only protein and no carbohydrate and no fat. Your body's not great at making energy from protein. You can do it a little bit, but it's not a good system. Mm-hmm. So when there just wasn't any, like fat and carbs are energy. Take your pick where you want to get your energy from.
Yeah.
Protein's not great for energy. A little bit, can't really do it much. So you end up with like this excess nitrogen secretion at the kidneys, and you end up with like actually a muscle wasting disease where you get really skinny and diarrhea and all that kind of stuff. In the modern world, no one would do that.
Right.
But there is an upper limit to the amount of protein that you could take in.
Protein and fat together.
Protein and fat, great, because then you're getting all the energy you need. Right. And you can even do it with protein and carbohydrate.
Yeah.
A low-fat diet. It's just much harder to control your appetite.
Yeah. That's the biggest
thing. You can do it.
Me.
You can stay lean on protein and carbs. It's possible, but you do it by force and not naturally.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to white knuckle through your appetite.
If I have carbs in the day, like if I have toast with my breakfast, and my breakfast is actually my lunch because I eat it at 1 or 2, I'm super hungry for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Which is weird to think that you ate more calories.
Yeah.
But it made you less satiated.
Yeah.
Right. So you can eat less calories, just skip the toast, eat the same bacon and eggs or steak and eggs, and you'll want to consume less calories the rest of the day.
Yeah. So for me, if I'm going to have carbs, I have them at the end of the day so that it's minimal effect on my hunger, and I can just like brush my teeth, be done with eating for the night, and then
go to sleep,
go to bed.
Yeah, crash and go to sleep. I mean, again, keeping your appetite under control is sleep, right? We've talked about sleep every single time. If you notice the common theme, the importance of a good night's sleep. Keeping your appetite under control, avoiding artificial sweeteners. So like diet sodas, people that consume diet sodas actually consume more calories overall, more likely to be obese.
Yeah.
So even though it's like that thing in itself has no calories, we have to go, what is the adaptation, caused by this thing? And the adaptation is an upregulation of the appetite, because it's confusing, right? Things should taste like what they are.
Yeah.
And so if something tastes sweet, your body, it's called cephalic phase insulin response. Immediately, as soon as you taste it, your brain is like, okay, sugar's coming in. That's going to be a panic attack. We're going to have to keep blood glucose under control. So you start secreting insulin. And then there's this insulin, but there's no sugar coming in. So insulin kind of overcorrects. Now you have a hypoglycemic event, not enough blood sugar. So now that makes you that's another type of panic mode.
Right.
Now you're seeking out, emergency, easy, quick, refined carbs.
Yeah.
So it actually makes you consume more, not less.
Yeah. I think such an easy jump off point for anybody is just stop drinking carbohydrates. Don't drink sugary stuff. Don't drink juice. Don't drink anything that tastes sweet.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
Number one. Well, okay. So I said no vegetable oils, and the last one is the number one most important thing. I might have to bump that to number 2 as the number one most important thing is no liquid sugar. Yeah. There's no need ever. No juice, no pop. Yeah. Even ditch the diet sodas. Just be an adult and drink water.
Yeah. Hydro homies. I remember working in a restaurant, and I got free pop, so I would drink it all the time. And I remember my boss sitting me down when I started managing, and he was like, I know what you're going through, man. I'm like, what? He's like, you're not serving anymore. You're not walking around as much. You're starting to chub up a little. And I was like, what? I'm chubbing up a little? Oh, shit. And the first thing I did was I stopped drinking iced tea, because that was my thing. I would just drink iced tea all shift. And I lost 10 pounds within 2 weeks, it just fell off me just from that.
Yeah. Okay. So no liquid sugar.
No liquid sugar.
We can strategically use some carbohydrates, but in whole food, you need to chew them. Whatever carbs you're going to eat, you have to chew. Yeah. Can we make that a baseline rule? Must chew your
Must
food.
chew food.
Must chew food. A healthy gut microbiome. You are basically a meat puppet being ruled and run by a whole colony of little microbes in your guts and all over. There are more microbial cells than there are human cells in you. You are more bacteria than you are you.
Sweet.
So you're a meat puppet being ruled by bacteria. So you need to keep those little microbes healthy. When you feed them sugar, they love sugar. They give out endorphins, and opiate-like chemicals that travel through the vagus nerve up to your brain, and you get addicted in a sense to these feel-good chemicals.
But it's not you.
But it's not you. They're being delivered by your bacteria. And so then when you are low in those feel-good chemicals, then guess what? You seek out sugar to feed the bacteria. They're kind of running your shit, right? So you need to make sure you populate the non-sugar loving ones. There's good bacteria, bad bacteria. So things that support a good gut microbiome, whole foods, healthy fats, collagen, avoiding processed food, vegetable oils, sugar, artificial sweeteners are particularly bad for the gut microbiome. And then some fiber, and then something called resistant starch can also be helpful too. So that's like if you cook a potato and cool it, or white rice and cool it, the starch starts to form chains called resistant starch that you don't digest, but your gut bacteria can, and they like it. So you're healthy gut microbiome.
What about like probiotics?
Yeah, the science on the probiotics is not settled. There's a lot science does not know about the gut microbiome. Probiotics, there's some question about whether, if it's in a capsule, is it just dead? Some of them, like live culture probiotics, are like ones you have to keep in the fridge. You're probably better off getting like probiotic or prebiotic foods. Like fermented foods are awesome. So like your sauerkraut, kimchi, like real yogurt, all those kinds of things that come with helpful microbes.
Yeah.
A little bit of fermented food, a little bit of sauerkraut, sour pickles, lots of fermented foods. That stuff's great for.
And you just have to be careful with that stuff too, because often to make it delicious, they add a whole bunch of sugar.
Yeah.
Right? Like yogurt.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Real yogurt, like just
yogurt.
And like homemade. Maybe you can do it in an Instant Pot. Pretty easy with a little bacterial culture. Make your own good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I touched on vegetable oils in the last one, and just briefly right now.
Yeah.
Not made from vegetables, made from seeds in a 27-step industrial chemically extracted process. So one of the things you can always ask yourself is, could I make this in my own kitchen? If I gave you olives, you can make olive oil. You just squish them. Olive oil is just olive juice. It just happens to be lipids instead of sugar. You can make, I could give you milk from a cow and you could make cream. That's real. It's like pretty simple. If I gave you canola seeds, you couldn't make canola oil. You can't do it. You need a insane industrial processing. You need hexane to extract. Like, you couldn't do it.
I think I have hexane in our fridge.
Yeah, exactly. So frankenfats, totally unnatural industrial frankenfats, they are high in a particular type of omega-6 fat called linoleic acid. Linoleic acid in particular is uniquely toxic in more than even the tiniest amounts. It is an essential fatty acid. You do need it, but maybe 2 grams per day. You don't burn it for energy. It's a fat that you don't use it for energy. It's structural in the phospholipids of your cell membrane. So you need a very small amount, but you can't make it yourself. You do have to get it. You would get it in natural amounts from animal fat. Okay. They eat grass and seeds and alfalfa and all kinds of stuff out in the field. So the tiny amount of linoleic acid that you need, you would get from good quality animals.
Right.
What we have now is pure, refined. People are getting as much as 70% of their fat calories from this stuff now when you needed such a tiny amount. So it's like really wildly high toxic levels.
Is it one of those things where they thought a little bit is good, so a lot must be great? Or is it just, it's easy to make and cheap? And
easy and cheap. Yeah. So the linoleic acid acts on your endocannabinoid system, which upregulates your appetite at the hypothalamus, increases your appetite.
Munchies.
Exactly the same as cannabis. So if you've experienced the cannabis munchies, that upregulation of your appetite is exactly what's happening when you eat vegetable oils. So if you would like to have natural appetite control and not overeat, which is just defined as eating more than you needed, you need to avoid vegetable oils at all costs.
Yeah.
Canola, corn oil, soybean, sunflower, safflower, rice bran. Know them, memorize them, read food labels, avoid them at all costs. Replace them with natural, healthy fats.
Yeah.
Your fully saturated, like room temperature fats are better for high heat cooking. Beef tallow, butter, ghee, lard, bacon fat. Your monounsaturates, your fruit fats are better for like salad dressings and things that you're not going to high heat cook. So that's like your olive oil, avocado oil, that kind of stuff. And then avoid the processed vegetable oils at all cost.
Yep.
As a good example of how vegetable oils get you to overeat, there was a study done with French fries. So McDonald's French fries made now are made with vegetable oil, fried in vegetable oil. And they made fries the old way, fried in beef tallow. So animal fat, healthy, saturated, natural fats. 2 groups of people, they had them eat ad libitum, which means they just ate as much as they want until they didn't want any more, in a setting where there's just kind of an unlimited amount of French fries. The group with the vegetable oil fries consumed 60% more calories from the fries versus the group with the beef tallow fries. So the beef tallow, the natural fat, comes with natural appetite suppression. The vegetable oil group comes with like chaos, a complete break in the link that should be there between your appetite and your need. So vegetable oils break that link, which is great for food processors that want to sell you more food.
Yep.
I have an undergrad and a master's degree in finance and marketing. A huge portion of marketing is dedicated to food marketing.
Yeah.
Huge. So, in those years of those studies, you spend a lot of time looking at the processed food companies. They literally, in the textbooks, have a problem that they call the problem of the fixed stomach, which means it's really hard for food companies to increase their profits year over year to their shareholders of anything above inflation, because there's only so many people, the population only grows so fast, and people only eat so much. People are supposed to have a natural upper limit to the amount of food that they eat. Mm-hmm. So the processed food companies literally have task forces dedicated to fixing the problem of the fixed stomach,
right,
of getting people to eat more, to get you to shove more food in your face. And one of the boons for the processed food industry was the invention of vegetable oils, because it gets you to consume way more than you would if they were feeding you natural foods.
Right. So, and it's in everything. Check your food labels.
They're everywhere. Yeah. But like we talked about in the last one, if you sub out vegetable oils, there's nothing that you can't have. It just means you're going to have to be more selective, and you might have to make it at home. Yeah. But there are potato chip companies now that are making avocado oil potato chips. So even if you're like, I want to have some chips and dip, you could do that. You can do it without vegetable oils. There's the Co-op near us has like a white cheddar popcorn, but they pop it with coconut oil versus the Smart Food major label brand is vegetable oil, right? So it's like, you can still have those little snacky treat kind of things here and there, but you read labels and you get real selective.
And I think that a lot of people get hung up on the cost, and it's like, those options are more expensive, but A, you're probably going to eat less, and B, it's your health, you're either going to pay a little bit more to take care of your health now, or you're going to pay with your future and being super sick and going through all kinds of medical treatment and, living and suffering because you didn't make these good choices early on. Yeah.
Okay. So how to get leaner, in summary, to conquer the problem of how to eat less and how to burn more. Yeah. Multifactorial process. Muscle, prioritize your muscle mass, lift heavy weights. Eat and, recover in a way that supports your lean body mass so that you burn more calories all the time on automatic, on autopilot.
Right.
Direct more of the energy that you take into expenditure by keeping insulin levels low and stable, avoiding large blood glucose excursions. So you keep carbohydrate intake low and infrequent. When you do, you prioritize starches. They're best timed after a super hard sprinty workout. Yeah. You avoid refined fructose, which is sugar and juice and like excessively sugary fruit. Incorporate a little bit of fasting, minimum 12 hours, try to push it to 14 or 16. And I mean, I've said sleep like 400 times. Yeah. Get a good sleep, and also avoid chronic cardio, which, assuming I'm preaching to the choir here with the CrossFitters, that's why we do CrossFit, is so we don't have to go to 2 hours on an elliptical machine anymore. We're all kind of on board with that. And then to keep the calories in at a normal or functional level, we need to eat real food, whole unprocessed food, prioritize protein, nutrients follow protein. So your appetite stops when you've reached your ceiling of needs of protein and nutrients. Support your good gut microbiome, also avoiding sugar, but avoiding artificial sweeteners as well. throw in a little bit of fermented foods into your diet. Also sleep well. And then avoiding the fucking vegetable oils like the plague.
Just get them out.
Get them out. So
right, there you go. Get lean.
Get lean.
Beach body, 6-pack abs.
Thanks, guys.